What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of CollectCo Connection, your one and only accounts receivable podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a powerhouse in the accounts receivable management industry. Our guest is the CEO of Credit Service Intl and the content editor at RO Hammer Companies, Mr. John Erickson. With over 20 years of expertise, he's been a driving force in shaping the ARM industry through strategic vision, operational excellence, and a relentless commitment to innovation. His ability to combine insight with action has not only driven growth for his own organization, but has also set a standard for best practice across our industry. So everyone join me in welcoming John as we dive deep into his journey, his perspectives on the evolving landscape of the industry, and his thoughts on what lies ahead for professionals in this space. My man, John, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Excited.
Have you.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you. Fun fact, John and myself are really the creation of successful networking across LinkedIn. Smattering of different posts, a couple direct messages, and collaboration from there has really teed up what is quite a tremendous relationship. We're collaborating weekly right now, and I think it really pays homage to the power that is networking, especially on a platform like LinkedIn. So awesome to have you here, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well
Definitely. Well, shoot, I always kind of like to start off a little background squib. Let's start off with your story. How did you end up leading Credit Service Intl and becoming such a recognized voice in the receivable management world? Like, what'd you do? How'd you get there?
I appreciate that. So I guess I feel like I had this conversation quite a bit, not just talking about my story, but I think there are a lot of us in the ARM industry. I think nobody wakes up when they're a little kid one day and says, when I grow up, I want to be a tech collector.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. I had a family connection. I started working at an agency right out of college, was there for about 7 years and had the opportunity to go out on my own. I was fortunate enough to have somebody kind of back me with some financial help.
Okay. All right.
A very small agency in kind of my later 20s.
Okay.
And, I knew when I was very grateful for the opportunity, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to kind of achieve my career and financial goals from that one purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So worked hard, put in lots of hours, kind of through organic growth. I drummed up some additional clients and eventually made good with my investors, I guess you'd call them.
Right.
And was able to buy a second smaller agency. And that kind of just continued to evolve for, 15 plus years, I'd say. Something like that.
That's crazy. So, I mean, you said your late 20s. I mean, I feel like I'm chasing you, man. I started in this industry around my late 20s. And it's just crazy what, at the tiny shell of an opportunity. I mean, look where it's catapulted you to. So if they ever tell you consistency doesn't pay off, you're looking at the example right here.
I worked in college at a Cellular One.
Okay.
I think that they still might exist like in Arizona.
It's like a mobile phone, right?
Yeah. They had you got to remember this was when cell phones were first coming out. Like I had my first cell phone in college. That was
okay. The Nokia brick.
It was like that. Like they were starting to get some flip phones and stuff. So I worked in the collections department for a Cellular One. That was kind of my first exposure.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Forgotten that piece of the journey. It was not. I mean, it was a means to an end at the time. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. It was a giant cubicle farm, but it was a valuable kind of lesson. Like maybe the culture of my current companies, that's not what we want to be.
No, for sure. One, especially from where you're sitting now, is almost like invaluable experience. You were literally boots on the ground experiencing the front line. I think that probably a lot of those experiences were catalysts to helping you be able to know, this is what I want it to look like now. These are the things and the errors I don't want to repeat. So that's awesome, man. That's so crazy.
Yep. And then the second agency that I worked for was really great, but also pretty small. It was like 15 people. Started out as a kind of a collector there. I had direct access to ownership, which was nice, and that I wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time on the phone. I think that was
Okay.
a good basis. I remember kind of during that period attending like trade association events, ACA stuff, for example, and
Yeah.
being at a table with other people and be like, how many do you actually get on the phone? And being the only one, I did get exposure to the rest of the business, kind of the financial, paying bills,
Oh,
managing.
for sure.
So all valuable information. I will say, was I 100% ready to take over ownership of an agency at that time? Probably not. There's a little bit of trial by fire for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
But at the same time, I had people depending on me. I had just a couple of employees. When I first started, I had one part-time employee.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild,
Yeah,
man.
so it was very, very small. And then eventually I had a couple, and I had people who had put the money up for me. So it was either succeed or be on the street kind of a situation. How
Yeah,
about
yeah.
there?
No, exactly.
Yeah, so it ended up kind of I guess lighting a fire. Yeah.
No, for sure. Well, I mean, it's funny, even back to those earlier experiences with you and ACA International. I mean, shoot, that's how I found out about you in the first place, is your involvement in a lot of these publications, speaking on new regulatory, CFPB,
Yeah.
FDCPA, some of the shit, which we'll get into. But that's wild, man. It sounds like you kind of hit the associations and kind of invested yourself in the participation from such a young start.
Yeah, that's what you did. The industry's changed a lot.
Yeah,
LinkedIn wasn't a thing then.
right.
I talk about this quite frequently. I do make connections outside of LinkedIn, but it's such a great tool. There are people, you're able to connect with people in the industry in ways that you weren't before, and it's super important.
Yeah.
The regulatory landscape, obviously, I think we'll probably talk about that, has changed quite a bit. Anybody who is at, an operations or management level at a collection agency who was in the same position or similar position 15 years ago can attest that it's a different game. Completely different game. Technology's changing. The employees we have are different. A lot of positive changes, some not positive changes.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like any other business. It's been a fascinating journey for sure.
Yeah, just ever evolving. So let's jump into it. Credit Service International. Obviously, I've done a bit of background, but just for those tuning in, what do you guys do over there? Like, what's the mission? What's the focus?
Yeah, good question. So we do primarily first and third party collections. We're
Okay.
not very heavy in the debt buying space. We do work for some debt buyers.
Mm-hmm.
We've purchased some debt, but it's not our primary business.
Understood. Yeah.
We're heavy into medical, hospitals and health systems, pretty much anything medical.
Yeah.
We do finance and some real estate. We work on the commercial side, construction.
Okay.
So a solid mix of stuff. For
Very
sure.
nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. So first and third party, debt recovery, nationally licensed, that type of gamut. And
Nationally licensed. We have SOC 2 certification. We do
Right.
a significant amount of litigation. We offer some EBO services as well. So,
okay.
yeah.
Very cool, man. I know just from some of our previous conversations, kind of whittled into Credit Service International is acquisitions. And
Yeah.
so kind of wanted to just pick your brain on especially because, and going back to your comment on the medical landscape, especially with regulations, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of smaller mom and pop agencies that are just kind of putting the hat up on the coat rack and just going, you know what? Whether it's too costly or some of the leverage components that we may have had previously, we no longer have. And so as such, liquidation is going down. Like, what are you seeing in that market, or like, what's your process when you're looking at an agency for acquisition?
Yeah. So great questions. I think there's been a lot of consolidation in our industry. There's been even greater consolidation in our client base, especially for those of us who are active in medical or banking.
Yeah.
I think a really good example, there used to be an independent hospital in every town, and there used to be kind of a small agency. Their primary client was that independent hospital. It was done for many, many, many years. And there's always been bigger players who are, had a national or, in some cases, a state size footprint.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of agencies were smaller, and it was like, I do these couple of counties. Here's the hospitals I collect for. And then as you started to see consolidation in the medical and health industries or in banking, same deal. These smaller agencies lost their kind of bread and butter main client.
Big time.
Yep. So I have my company. We've absorbed quite a few of those types of agencies. We do a lot of strategic partnership type stuff too. So
Right.
we're looking for agencies that want to join our group. If you're an owner and you're just not quite ready to retire, but maybe you're getting tired of running the day to day,
Yeah.
there's a place for you. That's kind of our sweet spot.
That's awesome.
Take your knowledge and pivot you to the things that you enjoy doing the most. I don't know how you feel about this, Chris, but I've always been a big believer that people have the highest capacity for expertise, or the things that they're passionate about become the things that they're the best at.
Yeah.
So I have a number of former agency owners that work for me today, whose agencies have joined our group. We can focus them on sales or, the client-facing aspect of the business. They don't have to deal with payroll. And
I love that.
yeah, and then really through, synergies, economies of scale, we're able to together develop a better product with, some of the two parts is much better. The one thing that I will say that's been kind of the biggest epiphany, I've done this enough times. I think we've acquired like 15 agencies. We have a way of doing things,
Right.
we've learned and gotten better at kind of the change management aspect of it, like bringing new staff on board into our system, transitioning clients and those types of things. We, just like every other agency, we have standard operating procedures, ways we believe are the best to do things, but without fail, every time we have a new agency join our group, we learn one new thing that completely is a game changer.
You have to.
So we're not a private equity firm or a search fund.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we do. We're bill collectors.
Yeah.
I've done this long enough where I can speak to the pain points of most agency operators and owners, and we're looking to build something bigger and better. And we're hoping that the other people will want to join us. And if that's, like I said, if you're not ready to completely retire, those are the conversations we want to have, how we can build something together.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say there is an aging ownership in this industry as well. So kind of the difference between our approach and the PE or some of the, bigger shops.
Yeah.
We're looking to bring people on. We want to keep the existing staff. And there is occasionally some redundancy where we're pivoting people to new roles.
Sure.
We want to build our team that way. And I think, I got to be honest, I think about this quite a bit. I think at some point, I want to be on the opposite side of the table too. I want to be the guy that is selling. I think back, maybe it's a daydream, but I think about when I get to that point, I want to make sure that my employees are going to land in a good spot, and clients that have been with me through this journey, that I want to make sure they're in a good spot.
Right.
I think it's maybe a legacy thing is what I'm talking about. Like, legacy. And those are kind of on the acquisition front, kind of the core values that we're trying to support. We want to build a bigger team, and, the companies I run are my baby. I want to make babies in good hands. You know what I mean?
Well, no, and I was kind of just going to make that comment, is I feel like that is, look at me, I'm the sales guy. That is your differentiator. So like, I've been involved in only a handful of A's and just kind of exploring that acquisition market. And one of the biggest catalysts, especially that I'm seeing from the seller, is, sure, there might be a financial hardship. They might be getting to a point of their life where they're kind of like offhand, absolute control, but it is their baby. They still want to be involved just to make sure, hey, these clients I've had a relationship with for 20 years are still being taken care of. Or I got excellent staff. I want to make sure that these guys are transitioning where they can still be rock stars. And I'll tell you, I've seen the other side of the acquisition script where that is not the case, where it's, hey, you've been here 20 years. Thanks for your service. See ya. Even down to the chief operating officer or the CEO. And so it sounds like the angle that you're taking is really genuine and synergetic to like a partnered and shared success, where, going back to like your first comment, you said, a lot of these guys know things that I don't know. And so why would I just shut that door on them? Like, I want you to come join my team. I want you to build this castle with me. And so I think that's huge. And I think it's just wildly uncommon in the acquisition landscape right now.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there are some challenges.
I bet.
There are some challenges, but I have a great team. I could talk. You could spend the rest of this hour talking about my team.
I love that.
And my leadership team is built almost entirely of people who have come from other agencies and joined our group. And A lot of them came from other agencies and didn't start on our leadership team, but the cream rose to the top.
But kind of grew into it. Yeah.
So it's been a blessing there. It for me, it outweighs the challenges. I know that there are a lot of people involved in the ARM space who do M&A, and they want to buy agencies and shut them down. There is a time and a place for that. I've bought some agencies where that has been the case, but that's like, they were small, and everyone wanted to retire.
Yeah, yeah. There's,
for the most part, try and keep offices open when appropriate. People enjoy working from home. We have the technology to do it now.
Definitely.
So that's been a big piece of it too. But yeah, it is slightly different what we're doing that compared to like what a PE shop.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you guys are keeping the dream alive for not only the owner of the shop, but all their employees and this whole culture and environment that they spent all these years creating. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Let's look at, so staying on acquisition, and then we'll cut away, is when you are in discussion or in a review of a potential smaller agency, bigger agency, whatever it may be, what are like the green flags or the red flags that you look out for in the consideration of bringing them on board? Like, what are some of those like key kind of components where you're going, hey, look, if this is how it's going to be, absolutely not type of thing?
Yeah. So I think there's usually less of that. And honestly, I think some people want to start by talking about price, which is not, listen, there's a lot of moving parts. If you're involved in collection space or the ARM space, you understand there's a lot of moving parts to these businesses.
Yeah.
It takes a significant amount of time to complete due diligence. And when I say that, I don't mean just for myself or someone on the buy side, also on the sell side. So I think what I try and do, or what we try and do, is make sure that we're on the same page before we get too far ahead of ourselves. I do have conversations occasionally with people who have a specific price in mind that's not realistic, and I wish them the best.
Yeah.
But listen, without getting too far into the weeds of like the mechanics of
right.
For the most part, collection agencies are primarily goodwill. It's blue sky. There's not a lot to collateralize here. And I take a very reasonable approach to valuation, which for the most part, you need to make sure that the business can support the debt service. That's
right.
The main thing, that I'm being compensated for my time, my team and I, and that any capital, we do cash deals occasionally too, that we're getting a return on it that is similar to what we'd be getting in the market.
Okay.
I know that everyone has different situations. People have different motivations for sale. And I've seen deals come across my desk that are it's not the right fit for us, purely from a financial
understood
perspective. There are resources out there for people, and I'm happy to provide referrals. I operate from a position where I believe there's abundance. There are ways to make deals. I'm willing to look and talk and be a resource for anybody who's interested in exiting. But I think what we're looking for are agencies, again, doesn't have to be a full-blown sale. It can be through strategic partnership. Like, what value does your agency bring that fills a gap that we have or strengthens us in some way? I want to learn, like, Chris, if you were selling your agency, I'd want to know how the story I shared, like, how'd you get into collections?
Yeah.
Like I talk to a lot of men and women who are looking to sell, and like their dad started it and they've been there for 20 years and they want to sail off into the sunset, or their spouse is looking at they have grandkids now. They want to spend time in another state and they have questions, like, what does something like this look like? I like having, tell me that, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a great fit and sometimes it's not. And I'd say, hey, you should contact this person. They can help you. Otherwise, there's, a standard kind of, let's sign some NDAs, make sure everyone's on the same page and comfortable, and let's take a look at what you have.
I love that, man.
Yeah, and it's, listen, we have a repeatable process. It's not anything rocket science. It's not like dealing with a private equity firm. I'm involved in some other businesses. I've been down that path. It's different. There is a time and a place for PE, 100%.
Right.
That's just not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. I'm looking for partners.
No, definitely.
If that is in the form of a full, stock or asset purchase, the partnership comes with the key staff that you have, and honestly save a couple of, this is another kind of really cool thing about this space. since the beginning of my career in the arm space, I've been very blessed to have some very people who've made big impacts on my life. And I don't mean that just in a business sense. Like, these were men who were became mentors for me.
Mentors, yeah.
Yeah, very solid personal relationship and people I looked up to. I've had a couple of them pass away, and just people I'm proud to have called my mentor. That's been a big part of this. And then the people who are still out there playing golf
Right.
I've developed some amazing relationships. It's just
Yeah.
been super cool. Like, I have sellers that have nothing to do with the collection space anymore. We talk on Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a cool thing. So yeah, it's a bit different approach.
I love to hear that, man. And to be fair, that kind of I'm not surprised to hear that, because even just going from the ethos of your whole company in terms of the acquisition, and it's so genuine and it's so personalized, and it seems like way more than just a scribble here, hand the keys over and we'll see you later. And again, I feel like that's just so rare in our world. And so to have a safe space like that, I think it's incredible, man. And you already know, we talked individually that I'm a big fan of what you're doing, but
yeah,
I think it's huge. And,
yeah,
there's a lot of weight in that.
I appreciate that. Kind of back to your original question too, as far as red flags, it's pretty rare. I do see, not everyone's an RMAI or ACA member.
Yeah.
There are people out there who learn on their own, and that's fine. I've met solid operators that way, but I've also met some operators where it's like, yeah, you might want to get a license.
Yeah. You might want to learn a little bit about what we're doing here.
And I think, I guess not to intentionally segue, but there are compliance concerns out there. And I think, we touched on industry consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of, competitor relationships and those types of things. I think as an industry, we need that more and more.
A little more cohesion, if you will. Yeah.
We all kind of need to have a hand or a voice in steering this industry in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Both kind of with regulators, and then the public image too is important. So yeah, I think that the bad actors, I think there's less than there used to be, just simply because of the cost. The barrier to entry for starting a new collection agency is probably pretty high these days.
Yeah.
And I think it's tougher to gain the type of clients that you need to be successful and grow.
Profitable, yeah.
Where your bad acting is making national headlines, but there are still people out there that give the industry a bad name.
Yeah.
I think that nature, for lack of a better term, kind of weeds some of them out. But those are the types of red flags. I have had some deals come across my desk that I'm sorry, I wish you the best of luck, but this is just not something.
Yeah. Just kind of outside my scope with respect to that's interesting. And in fact, I love, and I'll take advantage of the segue is obviously, and you and I have talked about this a ton, is you've been so active on LinkedIn posting about some of these new regulations. I mean, going back to credit reporting within the healthcare landscape. And then obviously most recently and relevant, all the kind of the chaos surrounding the CFPB, and the website's down, the Twitter's down. There isn't even a thing anymore. Like, where do you think that we're headed with all this? Like, help me wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So full disclosure, I'm very new to LinkedIn. It's kind of...
I wouldn't know it. It's fun. You bring the heat.
I've never, I've had a LinkedIn profile for some time, I think, but never been very active. And just kind of over the past few months as a part of a new project, RO Hammer Companies, hopefully we can touch on that at the end. But
yeah,
been kind of trying to develop some additional relationships. And, like you mentioned, you and I have connected a dozen times already, and it's been great. I'm meeting a lot of people, and I highly recommend it, especially in a regulated industry like ours. Reach out. Always had a network of other collection agency owners or operators. If I'm going to be, changing vendors, or I got a problem, or I need a solution, I'll make 5 phone calls, get 5, different voices, inputs, and then make an educated decision. It's just hands down. That's how you should be operating in an industry like ours.
Hands down.
And a lot of those relationships are developed over many, many years, attending meetings and those types of things. LinkedIn, you send us connection requests. Hey,
yeah. You want to jump on a call?
Yeah. So it's been really great. I guess we can talk about the compliance stuff too. I'll just touch on
Yeah,
our...
I mean, like, we got to go deep into the weeds, but I know, like, look, I tune into your page just because you are posting routinely almost every other day on, hey, I just learned this, or this just happened, or a new note on behalf of the CFPB was just released. It's kind of giving us like, what are we doing? Where are we headed?
Yeah. So RO Hammer Companies is a company. I have some partners as well. We're looking to do a more diversified acquisition strategy surrounding some additional professional services verticals. But
So not just arm industry, but kind of branching out business console, business service.
Yeah, so like CPA and advisory, legal.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, early stages. For now, kind of as that journey begins, the site's going to be going live soon. It's a content platform for professional service people, and it's all outside content. Looking forward to seeing some of your content down there, Chris.
I'll bring the heat. You know it.
Yeah. So we have kind of a growing stable of experts in a bunch of different industries who are going to be contributing, and nothing salesy about it. It's just, I find a lot of value. I read articles on LinkedIn. The stuff I try and put on there is stuff that I'm interested in, or like solutions or problems I'm trying to solve.
Yeah.
And this will be a similar platform where we're developing relationships, and there will be content, for the arm space, for the CPAs of the world, and those types of things. So in the coming weeks, excited about kind of moving that along. That's how my LinkedIn journey started, as kind of a part of this project. So
no,
cool.
Definitely. I'm so excited for the launch. And look, I could not be more of a proponent of that, the speed to value, especially, I mean, we touch base on LinkedIn, but a concept, a launch like RO Hammer Companies is really like the amount of feedback and the amount of advice and just counsel it really is tremendous. And so having like an accountable and a trusted network like that, where you can go in and it is peer-to-peer discussion and peer-to-peer review, and you get these little gotcha, that's a great idea type of concepts. And I think that you made a comment earlier about the connectivity of competitors, like the relationships of competitors, like doesn't have to be so ground and pound anymore. And the more that we do engage in that open dialogue, like there's enough money to go around for everybody. You and I know that just in our discussions, right? So it really, like, you lift this peg of just real, hey, this is how we get innovative. This is how we really grow the excellence of the industry. And it doesn't have to be a single man pursuit that does the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So for RO Hammer, there's going to be a rotating editor every 2 years. I'll be kind of the editor in residence from the start.
Love it.
But the type of content, once the site goes live, if I haven't spoken to you, there'll be a spot where you can submit content. But I guess the best way to describe it is, like, for example, if I have a problem at Credit Service or one of my other businesses that I'm trying to solve, I'm reaching out to my network of competitors or other operators and finding a solution. I am then taking that problem and how I solved it and making an article about it on our own. That's it. So it's a shortcut to topics that matter for people in the professional services industries.
I love it. It's like a real life, real time case study, business study, FAQ on what the heck do I do? And I just think it's so needed.
Yeah.
That peer-to-peer review, like there's nothing better than getting your multiple different types of dialogues, like you said earlier, and then to be able to make an educated decision on where to go next with the information that you just received. I mean, I think it's huge.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for the launch of RO Hammer Companies. You already know I'm going to be on board with you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, there is going to be a portal too. So if you're interested in getting involved further, either through strategic partnership or you're looking to take on an active investor or divest, there's a spot to contact, submit some, high-level due diligence items, schedule a consultation. So that'll be a piece of it too. And yeah, we're excited about it. It's going to be a fun project.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, shoot, dude, I know that we just ran a little bit beyond time. Man, John, I can't thank you enough for joining me. We go way back, especially from the LinkedIn networking world. I'm so looking forward to continued collaboration. Obviously, RO Hammer is going to be top of the palette once you hit your go-to-market launch. And I know myself, all those included, the listeners as well. I just can't wait to see which direction you take this bad boy. We're so stoked for you, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. We'll connect next time. John, appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Cheers.